This is Mark Anthony with Mercury Time Price Analytics with our end-of-day video update for algorithmic day trading of ES, NQ, bonds, and crude oil. Well, we knew this morning when we ran our algo pivots, which is done an hour and a half before RTH, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We knew today there was a very strong likelihood of seeing a dramatic pullback. Why? Because one of the first things we do in the morning is we run our single daily bull-bear pivot. And today it was all the way up at 33.29. Now here's the problem. The algo pivots, and every horizontal line on this chart is an algorithmic pivot. When we ran those pivots this morning, these algo pivots typically move up in a strong uptrend 3 to 6 handles a day. Well, today it was 11 handles. So right from the start this morning, there was an extremely high bar set for the bulls. They either had to take this thing and run, or it was going to break and get a fast move down. And that's exactly what we got. Our proprietary ES long short entry system triggered short at 8:30, an hour before the market opened, at 33.3175, and proceeded to drop 51 handles down to today's low, which was 32.8175 or 80.75. Now, what our system does that's unique is when the trade is triggered, you've got pivot after pivot after pivot with which to take profits. So we customize this so it suits a variety of traders. Whether you have a small account or a large account, you have multiple opportunities to take profits all the way down. And since we're talking about the daily algo bull bear pivot, let me show you a couple other examples. We run this on a number of instruments in the morning, not just ES, NQ, bonds, and crude oil. But let's take Microsoft. Single daily bull bear pivot, again produced 90 minutes before RTH open. At the time, at 8 o'clock that this was run, Microsoft is trading up here, 167.5. And at the open, it comes down, and you get this move back and forth. And what any instrument is going to do when it interacts with this bull-bear pivot is it's going to fight over it a little bit, and then it's going to release. Sometimes it releases up, sometimes down. But you can see that this literally is the fulcrum point for the entire day. Once it releases from that level, it has one last gasp to recapture it, and then you get this. Let's take a look at Amazon. And I'm showing you this on different instruments, even instruments that our algo doesn't trade, to show you that the reason our system is so accurate is because it's built on time, not price. You can't have a system that's built on price and have predictable results, because price is linear. Price literally starts at 0 and goes up. There's no way to anchor anything to price. You have to anchor everything to time. And the time cycle analytics that we have in our system are the same ones the institutions use. Problem is they're not sharing that with you. We do. And so the single daily bull bear pivot today for Amazon was 1886.80. And that is produced, if we can zoom in a little bit more, that's produced here at 8 a.m. And it doesn't matter that it was trading near that price at the time. It has nothing to do with price. And so you get this move up in the open, comes down, jockeys around the bull bear pivot, and then it releases, just like we saw with Microsoft. And you'll see this with bonds, with crude oil. Anything that trades around the clock, we can produce an extremely accurate algo bull bear pivot. And if that's all our system did, you'd be able to profit handsomely from that. So let's take a look at bonds. Single daily bull bear pivot for bonds today, 59.15. And what happens when it releases from that area? It goes. Let's take a look, and we're going to come back to bonds in a minute, but right now, since we're talking about the single daily bull bear pivot, just to prove how rock solid the time cycle dynamics are in our system, this is crude oil. Wants absolutely nothing to do with the daily bull bear pivot, and we get this move down. Let's talk a little bit more about crude. Our algo went long last Friday, end of the day. We got this sharp move upward to open Sunday Globex. The algo then flips short 3:12 Monday morning and catches this move down. Then the system triggers long. Now, I mentioned this earlier. When you're trading an algo, especially if it's an oscillator, it's going to give back a lot of the profit before it flips the other way. Well, our system doesn't do that because our subscribers have these proprietary profit capture pivots at points that they can take profit along the way. And in this case, you had 3 of them. When the algo flipped long, you had a profit capture pivot here, and then it went short. Now, anytime our systems flip from long to short or vice versa in a short period of time, there's going to be a big move. And our systems don't flip from long to short and do it when you're at a loss in the position. If it flips in this case from long to short, it's going to go short at a higher price than it went long. So that gives you an opportunity to lock in profits on part of that position. And if you still have a runner left and it flips in this case from long to short, you close the position and you put a full position on, in this case, short. That was at 58.30. Crude traded down below a 54 handle today. And it's been in that move the entire way. Let's take a look at bonds. And if you've watched any of our other videos, first of all, we thank you. But it would be remarkable if any algorithm was this accurate to the tick every once in a while. Our system does this every day. And I'll show you more examples of that in a minute. So our bond algo has been long all week, with these exceptions here where it was short and then flipped long, again with an opportunity to take partial profits. And then, of course, as I just mentioned, if it flips, then you take the remainder of the position off, you put the full position back on in the direction that it just changed to. And here you had 1, 2, 3, 4 pivot levels to take profits. The algo flipped short. You've got 1, 2 areas to take partial profits. And then when it got long on Wednesday, we got this action. Long all the way up until into the high of Friday of 160.27. That is a breathtaking move in bonds. Now, another reason that we knew that there's a strong likelihood of having a significant pullback in ES is you've got bonds going from the bottom left of the chart to the top right. And you got crude oil going from the top left of the chart to the bottom right. At the same time, ES is going higher every day. Well, you can't have both. Either bonds and crude are right, or ES is right. And we found out that bonds and crude were right. So let's take a look back at ES. And this time we'll take a look at the continuous contract, because for our subscribers, we provide a live chart through Zoom. So each day you go to Zoom, you can register for Zoom with for free with your email address. And then each day we provide an updated code prior to the 6 o'clock Globex open, and that runs all the way till RTH close the next day. And so on the top left panel, we always have our swing trading algo for ES. To the right, we have our day trading algo. Now, I'm going to go back to that other screen in a minute, but what I want to show you here is when ES started to break down, it came down and it went right up. Let's do this. Let's go back to the bigger chart. And we'll do that over here. Go to the March. Because on the day trading chart, we have a very unique system of pivots we call Mercury dynamic pivots. And what's unique about these pivots is when we run these in the morning prior to RTH, not only do they give us the specific pivot level, but the algorithm ascribes a specific name to each level. And the algorithm ascribes these names to indicate the expected behavior when price gets into those levels. So we have ES come down, and it returns right to the trend warning pivot, and then it fails. And then it comes down through the multi-day trend cycle pivot, through the trend change warning pivot and comes down literally to the tick to our swing trend pivot. It's a little bit obscured by price here, but if we pull this out a little bit more, you can see there's the swing trend pivot, 32.94. Closing below that was significant today. But it comes down to the tick, to the swing trend pivot, and then we get a bounce. And where does it stop? It stops right at the price acceleration pivot that just broke, which had ES accelerate through it. And that's what I mean. The specific names are generated by the algo each morning, an hour and a half before RTH, at the same time that it generates the pivot levels. And so the system is very mechanical because it's all based on time price mathematics. It's predominantly weighted on time based on the immutable time cycles that ES, NQ, bonds, and crude run on. And if you're an institutional algorithm programmer and you're watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The difference is the institutions program algorithms for their own use. They're not sharing that with you. We do. So you can see how these pivots break. Now, the whole idea is that you have multiple opportunities to take profits. So whether you have a small account and you're taking profits at 3, 5, 8, 10 handles, or you're trading a larger account where you can give the trade more room, you're talking about a 51 handle move off the entry at 33.31.75. Now, if you've seen any of our videos before, you've seen this day after day after day where ES, NQ, bonds, and crude trade exactly to these pivots, in many cases literally to the tick, and then they stop. Let me give you an example on that, because on the what we were just looking at is the March contract. On the ES continuous contract, we have another type of pivot we call a live pivot. And these live pivots are generated at a specific time of the day. Now, there's two things that you have to get right to have this level of precision. Number one, you have to know the exact time cycles that ES, NQ, bonds, and crude oil trade on. And then you need to know the exact minute of the day to run them to get the maximum accuracy. And I mean literally to the minute. Again, if you're watching this and you build algorithms and you work for an institution, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So here we've got a live pivot from 11 days ago on the 13th. And we had this move that started up here, 33.36 was the morning high. That came down 51 handles from the trade trigger and stopped to the tick at one of our live pivots. Now, that would be like you or I getting on top of a 10-story building and throwing a coin off and saying it's going to land there. And so with these profit capture pivots, when one pivot is broken, it opens up the next and the next and the next and the next, all the way down until it decides to stop. And when it stops, it'll stop almost to the tick. In this case, it was to the tick at a pivot that's been on our chart for 11 days. Think about that, 11 days. And it does this every day. And so if you've not been to our website, we welcome you to stop by mercurysignals.com. We have 3 different packages. We've got a package for ES and NQ. We've got a package for bonds and crude oil. And we've got a third package for Bitcoin. And they're all separate packages. So if you trade ES and NQ, but you don't trade bonds or crude, you're not paying for something you're not going to use. If you trade bonds or crude and you don't trade ES there too, you can subscribe to that package as well. I had one of our bonds crude subscribers email me yesterday, and he had made enough in the week since he started, last week to this week. He made enough on crude oil to pay for his subscription for over 2 years. He made enough on bonds to pay for his subscription for over 2 years in 1 week. And if we pull this chart back out, and let me switch back over to the March, because that shows the day trading algo. So here you have the system. Can we go? Well, let's go back a little bit more so we can catch this. So on Monday, the system was short right here, and then quickly flipped short. And as I mentioned before, when the algo switches that quickly, you get one of these. Now, what our system will not do is it won't get long and then figure out it's wrong lower and then flip short. That doesn't do you any good. So anytime the system flips, it's going to flip at a point where you've got profit built into the trade, so you're taking profit out of it as it goes in that direction. But at any time, generally speaking, you get a quick change in our algo, it's going to do this. So we get that fast move down, then the algo triggers long here. You have this move all the way back up into 33.29 with literally a dozen opportunities to take profits. So again, whether you like to scalp and lock in those profits every few handles, you can do that. If you're the kind of trader that likes to give it some room, you can do that too. This is another, and now I'll zoom in a little bit. This is another indication of where the algo flipped quickly. So towards the end of the day on Tuesday, it flipped short. And then an hour and a half into Globex, it flips long at a lower price, and you get a squeeze. And that's what happens when these algos flip long to short, short to long that quickly. It's going to be painful, and you want to get out of the way, and you certainly don't want to be on the wrong side of it. And that brings us to Wednesday. On Wednesday, the algo got short at 33.31.50. Now, it's not a coincidence that the algo got short Wednesday at 33.31.50, and Friday it got short at 33.31.75. Now, even though this isn't a perfect double top here, it's pretty darn close though. Algorithmically, this is a double top when you get the short coming in here Wednesday and the same thing here, and that's what triggered this fast move. Now, I want to give you a little peek under the hood, because I'm going to show you something that, by and large, institutional algorithm programmers are not going to show you. And that's this. This is our proprietary overbought oscillator with a little hiccup in the system. So when we got this Thursday, and if you watched our video from last night or our midday video yesterday or the midday video from today, we showed this to you. This purple line is our proprietary oversold oscillator. And where did ES come down to on Thursday? To the tick. Now, what I mentioned in the video last night, as well as in the update today, but more importantly last night, because what I mentioned last night would have profited you a whole lot more knowing it yesterday than at noon today, is this. When ES or any instrument comes down to this purple oversold oscillator, is deeply oversold. And what that indicates is there's something wrong. And when you get the move down to this purple oversold oscillator, you will get a retest within 3 days and another retest typically in 5 days. We got the retest the next day. Now, the fact that that retest came the very next day is further indication that something's wrong. Now, next week, I would expect another test, because what you had here is it did not hold this first oversold, and that's deeply oversold. And I want to mention something else. You had a high at 33.37 and a move down to 3300. That's only a move of 37 handles. So in absolute terms, or in absolute percentage terms, 37 handles when you're trading above 3,300 is nothing. The problem is, algorithmically, the number of levels that were broken on Thursday on its way down. And that tells you that there's something wrong. And that's why we got this today. Now, this much, much deeper oversold oscillator, this was not hit at all in November. It was hit in October several times, and in August even more times than that. So if you remember when the central bank liquidity injections started, initially they were daily repos, overnight repos, and then they added a term facility. And then they increased the daily repo amount. Then they added more term repos. Why? Because this was starting to break in August and in October. We had multiple moves down, and some of them were deeply below this orange algo. So things were starting to break, and that's why not only did you have the liquidity injections, but you had more and more and more and more till the system stabilized. And so in November, we didn't have any moves down even to this purple oversold algo. In December, the first 2 trading days in December, the 2nd and the 3rd, we did get a move down to the orange algo, and then that was it. We didn't get any more the rest of the month. The seasonal bullishness in December kicked in. Well, here's the problem. We had a move down below this level, this orange level, twice earlier in January. And now we're getting down into it again. And what that means is the liquidity that they pumped into the system that held all through the month of November and just had that one little hiccup first 2 trading days of December. Well, now there's a problem. And what you're going to see over the next couple weeks and months is even more liquidity pumped into the system. Now, up to now, it's been called not QE. We're about to have pure QE. And the central banks have to do that, or this is going to break. And I'm not casting any judgment on the central banks. You know, everybody has their opinions, good, bad, or indifferent, about the liquidity injections and how they're going to affect the long-term, the markets long-term. Well, guess what? I have an opinion too, but it's not going to make any of us a dime. It doesn't matter. We trade price. When you get your brokerage statement at the end of the month, it shows you numbers. It doesn't show you reasons. But I'm telling you now that what we're getting, what we got Thursday and what we got today, these are indications that that liquidity that's being injected into the market is not enough. There's going to be more. This video is being recorded on the 24th of January. Next Wednesday, there's an FOMC meeting, but there's going to be more liquidity pumped into the system because they have to. And whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, here's the point. 2020 is going to be a phenomenal year for trading because we've got all these cross currents. You've got the markets, the equity markets at ridiculously oversold levels, historically oversold levels. You've got the liquidity injections that are going to push back on these moves down. You've got global geopolitical events, too numerous to mention. And there's a presidential election this year. So this 2020 is going to be one of the best years of trading ever. And I don't know how anybody can trade these markets without having this on here or having some type of system. I firmly believe that we have the most accurate algorithm available for consumers. And that, if you watch these videos every day, no one can question that. But I'm going to go one step further. I believe that our algorithm, particularly with the profit capture pivots, is much, much better than any institutional algo out there. I get trolled all the time, multiple times a week, by folks that work for institutions. And I'm not going to share this. We're not going to sell it. The institutions have their own stuff, and they're doing very well. Thank you very much. But this is for individual traders like you and I. And so, again, we encourage you to go to our website, mercurysignals.com. Check out our systems. You can sign up and try out. We bill bi-weekly. We don't bill monthly. We bill bi-weekly so that you're not committed to more than 2 weeks. If you try out our system and it doesn't prove its worth, you can cancel anytime. But at the same time, we give you a lifetime rate lock. So in the future, as rates go up, and there will be a rate increase in February 1st, whatever rate you subscribe at, you're locked in at that rate for life. It doesn't matter what the rates go up to in the future. And we give you the ability with our biweekly billing to cancel it anytime. So we thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today, going on 25 minutes. We know that 25 minutes is a great deal of time in today's world. So we thank you so much. If you never go to our website, if you never subscribe to any of our videos, we sincerely thank you for taking the time to watch this. We will have another video update on the weekend, our weekly update. There's also a webinar coming up Tuesday the 28th, 8 p.m. Just go to our website, mercurysignals.com, click the webinar menu item at the top of the page, and you'll be able to register for it. You don't need a password, but you do need to register for it. It's on Zoom. It costs you nothing other than entering your email address to be on Zoom, and that'll be Tuesday the 28th at 8 p.m. So again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. God bless you. God bless your family, and we hope to see you again soon.